Good evening, good evening, good evening. Sunday night. So it must be Sunday night satsang with John and Michelle. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for giving up an hour of your time to be with us tonight, to center ourselves with a certain energy of sacredness.
Absolutely, yeah. It's always nice to end the weekend off like this.
It is.
And start a new week.
It is. And fill our batteries up for the week ahead.
Yeah.
That's what we do here. We enter a little bit of peace, a little bit of calmness, and in the process, we actually energize our deep spiritual cellular energy with some of this vital life energy, which will carry us through the week ahead. So welcome, welcome. And as usual, we ask you to please let us know where you're from, who we're talking to. Press the like and the share button, and we like getting a few hearts as well. So thank you, thank you for the hearts. They say love makes the world go around, so we really do love. Yeah, we do love getting their hearts. Yeah.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, and while there's no physical monetary charge for joining us on these Sunday night satsangs, there is a little bit of a charge, and that is to press the like and the share button.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, that's good. That's good payment to press the share button and just get the circulating to a wider audience. But thank you for being with us tonight. So tonight we're going to be looking at who are you? Who am I?
We think we know that answer, I think.
And we're going to, the mind thinks it knows that answer. And the problem is that the idea of who you think you are is the core underlying issue in your life, actually. It's in the world that way. Because the evilness that's on the earth is perpetrated by people who have no idea who they are. If they knew who they were, they definitely wouldn't be doing what they're doing. So this issue, this inquiry, this self-inquiry as to who am I, who are you, is so fundamental to a new work, to a new earth, to a new culture, to a new community, because all of us act out of a certain perception of who we are. And that perception, I think, has created a pretty mad world at the moment. So that's what we're going to be looking at tonight, and gaining a little bit of sanity into our world. So thank you for joining us, and we're going to start, as we always do, with a bit of a centering meditation. Shall we do that?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, yeah.
We're going to kick off that.
So welcome. Yeah. Hello, Paula from Johannesburg.
And
Vash. Yes, hi, Vash. Yes, hi. So let's just settle back into our chairs to see that you've got enough cushions to make yourself comfortable. Let's just gently close our eyes. And let's connect with the stillness of just this moment, the peace of just this moment. The peace and the stillness is always here with us. It's just generally we have too much activity, too much doingness, and definitely too much thinkingness to realize, to perceive this beautiful, wonderful peace and stillness that underlies all movement, all sound. Let's just take a moment or two to focus our awareness on the stillness of just this moment here and now. And in the stillness we become aware. We become more awake, more aware. First of all, let's become aware, more aware of all the sounds that we can hear as we quieten the mind. Where we are, we can hear a breeze. What can you hear? By quietening your mind and really listening. And as you listen, you might like to even let go of the labels of what you're hearing and step back to become just the pure listener, beyond judgment, beyond the need to continually label everything. just to be aware, just to be in a state of heightened alertness. And as you enter this quiet space of sacred listening, we become aware of the breath. We become aware of this beautiful flow, this rhythm of life that breathes us. We become aware of our hands and where our hands are resting. We become aware of our feet and where our feet are touching right now. We become aware of the chair that we're sitting on. Possibly being aware of the backrest that supports you. And if we really listen more attentively, very carefully, we may pick up the beating of our own heart in our eardrums. Every time the heart beats, it pushes a pressure wave through the eardrums. Let's see if we can pick that up. This is such a wonderful portal into presence, because the heart is only ever beating now, in this moment. We can only truly hear the beating of our heart when we become present, when we become centered in the here and now. Notice what that is like, to listen with presence awareness. Just notice any uncomfortableness in your body right now. Become aware of any tension. Maybe there's some tension in your forehead, your scalp. There might be some tension in your back or your knees. Just become aware of it. And as you listen to the beating of your heart in your eardrums, as you're aware of your feet, your hands, and any uncomfortableness in the body, become aware of who is aware of all of that. Who is aware of the uncomfortableness in the body? Who or what is aware of the chair and the breath? Who or what is aware of the tension in the forehead? Is it your name that's aware? What if you changed your name? Would your awareness go? Surely not. You can adopt any name you like and the awareness would still be aware of the chair. Is it your sexuality, your gender that's aware of the chair, of the sounds you can hear, the beating of your own heart? Is it your race? Is it your education, which allows you to be aware of your feet and your hands? Surely if you didn't have your education, you could still be aware of your breath, of your hands, of the chair. Now what about your age? If you were a little bit younger, or a little bit older, would that make a difference to being aware of the chair right now, in this moment? If you had a different religion, would that affect the awareness of the beating of your heart in your eardrums? What about if you had accomplished a little bit less than you have accomplished? Would that affect the awareness that listens? Or if you had accomplished a little bit more, would that affect your ability to listen to these words in this moment? And if you dropped all of those ideas about yourself, your age, your gender, your sexuality, your religion, if you even dropped your name, the awareness would still be there. Just settle into that realization for a moment. That you, the awareness of all the information that your body is giving you. You're the awareness that's aware of any aches and pains in your body. You're the awareness that listens. And this awareness is timeless, nameless, genderless. It's eternal. If it is timeless, it's eternal. Now, where is this awareness? Is it in your feet? Is it in your hands? Is it in the top of your head? Is it in your left ear, your right ear? Where is this awareness? And you find it has no specific place. It seems to be everywhere, not dependent on locality. It's timeless awareness. And in this stillness, notice the beauty, notice the freedom, notice the love. And now let's take a very deep breath into the solar plexus, drawing the air right the way down the lungs, blowing the tummy up like a big ball, and then a beautiful long surrendering breath out, and relax your shoulders even more as you breathe out. Take a second deep breath in, blowing the tummy up and taking the air in your imagination down to your toes. And then that beautiful surrendering, releasing breath out, just letting it all go. Long, 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 long breath out. Take a third very deep breath in now, right down to the toes and up to the top of the head at the same time. So you're blowing your whole body up like a big ball. And then that beautiful long, just let it all go. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Let it all go. And when you're ready, you may gently, very gently open your eyes, and as you open your eyes, to see how you feel in this moment. How do you feel right now? And maybe you would like to type that into the comments box, just letting us know how you feel right now. It's beautiful, timeless awareness. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Lovely. Welcome, everybody, for those who joined when we were checking in. Thanks for the hearts. So here we are.
Hello, Sher from East London, and Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hello. To know who we're speaking to. Otherwise, we're just looking at ourselves.
Yeah, in the comments box, just type us, tell us where you're from and how you feel in this moment. How do you feel?
Yeah, do you feel lighter? Do you feel more centered? Do you feel, what do you feel?
A bit floaty?
Maybe more relaxed.
Maybe angry. I had one person said that when they relax, they get angry.
I also had somebody
because they don't want to let go. The ego says, no, don't go there.
Don't do that. She
don't do that. Yeah.
Agata says she's more grounded and in acceptance.
Agata. Yeah. And Paula.
And Paula's more at peace, grounded, Priya.
Grounded. Beautiful. Well, welcome this evening. And we're going to be looking a bit at who are you. And, it's all very well having a discourse about who are you. But in that opening meditation, perhaps you started to connect more with who you are. And as I said in the very beginning, the madness in the world that we find ourselves in is created by people who have absolutely no idea who they are. They think they are what they do, they are what they have, and they are what other people think of them. And for most people, that's the sort of identity which they have around. So they're always striving for more, to gain more. And it's actually a disease. Moreness is a disease. It's a mental disease.
Well, most of us define ourselves by not what we've just done, but what we've just done in this opening.
Yeah.
So when we meet somebody, what do we ask generally? We say, "Oh, hello, who are you? What's your name? And then what do you do?
What do you do? Yeah.
What do you do?
Now I know who you are.
Yeah. If you, where do you live? Do you have children? Those are the things that we ask generally, and then we have a lovely little picture of who we believe that person to be,
and then we pigeonhole them into that.
Okay, so she's an astrologer, so she's a little bit offbeat, or he's a businessman, so that means that he's in that pigeonhole.
Yeah.
And that's the cause of a lot of the separation that we experience as human beings on this planet. Because in that instant we judge without even knowing that we're judging.
Yeah.
We're defining that person by what the answer is.
And what you said there, about the perception of separation. There's me and there's them.
Yeah.
And how do I fit in relationship to them? What work do they do compared to what work I do? What have they accomplished compared to what I've accomplished?
Yeah.
How much do they earn compared to how much I earn? Where do they go on holiday compared to where I go on holiday?
And then you adjust your behavior generally according to that. So, he's richer than me, or he's more successful, or she's prettier or younger, and then there's a behavioral change in relationship to whatever that person's answered. And very seldom, unless we're doing some spiritual inquiry or some self-inquiry, do we actually ever get to a deeper, real understanding of who we are. Because it's not something that you can read in a book. It's not something anyone can tell you. It's something that you've got to feel who you really are at your core.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a process of inquiry and experience of who you actually are.
Yeah. It's a process of starting to see with different perceptions. So, it's a case of self-realization.
Yeah.
And that's a process of seeing with real eyes, not with the eyes of the mind, with the judgmental, not with the egoic eyes, but with the real eyes, trying to see yourself and others, obviously, with real eyes. And the reason this starts with who am I, because if we don't know who we are, then how can we know who anyone else is?
Yeah.
If we only judge ourselves and we only know ourselves in terms of our labels, the labels like, for example, our name or our race or our gender or our religion or our accomplishments or the title that we have on our
business card.
or any one of those things, how can we know anyone else? We will only know them through their labels. And one of the biggest realizations in life is that we're not our labels. And how do I know that? Because labels change.
Everything, every single one of them.
Yeah. I remember when I was 33, I was a director of a company there, and the business went insolvent. And I ended up not being that label anymore. And I was a very important person, and I had, people queuing at my door to make appointments to see me, and suddenly I wasn't that label. And the realization hit me so strong that I am still exactly who I am. I might not be that label, I might not have that prestigious title anymore, but the I that I really am is exactly the same. It's never changed. No matter what we achieve, the real sense of who we are, the real essence, never changes. There was a time when I wasn't a father, and yet I was me. Now I'm a father of 4 children.
But you would have defined yourself as a father, wouldn't you? That would have been one of the things. Who are you? You would have said, well, I'm John and I'm a father and I have 4 children. So maybe you wouldn't have defined yourself, but that's how you would have explained yourself.
For a certain amount of time.
Because that's generally what we do when we meet somebody. I often tell the story when I went to Findhorn. I'd been in marketing for most of my life and kind of prided myself on being one of those people who made things happen, and got to Findhorn Foundation in Scotland and met this chap, met lots of people, and said, who are you? What's your name? What do you do? Because that's what we do. That's what we ask people. And he said, I garden. I'm a gardener. No, he didn't say I'm a gardener. He said, I garden. And I realized in that moment, looking back now, that there were all sorts of little judgments popping up. Oh, he's a gardener. Gee, he must be 45, 50, maybe. He's a gardener. Interesting, because he seems intelligent. But there were judgments there. And a couple of days later, I spoke to someone and said, so that chap over there, he's a gardener. So she said, well, what did you ask him? So I said, well, I asked, what do you do? So she said, what did he answer? So I said, he said, I garden. So she said, well, that's what he does. At the moment, he gardens. So I said, so has he always gardened? So she said, no, he's actually a brain surgeon. But right now, he gardens. And it was such a wake-up call for me, because having come from never even exploring that really at a deep level, it was just, oh my goodness, that's what we do. We do it without even thinking that we're doing it. We judge without even thinking. So somebody says something and straight away you judge and put them in a box. And we do the same with us. And when you realize that the boxes that, as John said, we put ourselves in are all transitory. They're all going to move. They're all going to change, every single one. Our roles are going to change. Our names can change. Our looks definitely change. Our feelings change. Our thoughts change. Our belongings change. They come and they go. People change. Our communities change. So who are we? I think it's one of the most fundamental questions on a quest.
Yeah, because if we only identify ourselves with the things that are changing. So, for example, if we only identify ourselves with our financial situation or our achievements or the roles that we play, if we identify ourselves, for example, with our age, and they all change, and we know they're going to change, there's always a sense of insecurity. There's always a sense of not enoughness. Yeah. And so we continually strive for moreness. We strive to find security in terms of what I do and what I have and what other people think of me. But in truth, there is no security in any of them, because they're all intangible. They're all changing all the time. They're all in transit. And so there's always that underlying vibration of insecurity. And that drives most human beings. And it is a level of unhappiness. And I would suggest even a bit of insanity, in that saneness, I believe, is when you are at peace. When you're at peace and you're present, then you are totally sane. And if you're always striving after some identity outside of who you really are, then there's going to be that level of unconsciousness that's driving your life.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that right now is a very good time to try and look deeper, make some self-inquiry, and find that aspect of yourself which is not subject to time. And time is the big one, because all of those things that we mentioned about self-identity, they're all subject to time. And time kills everything in the end. And if we only know ourselves in terms of those, then we are, normally most people are running away from death. And it's fear that drives their lives. And that's not such a fulfilling way to live our lives. With fear. And I mean, I look at what's happening in the world right now, and it's so easy to see how people are manipulated by fear. It's just so obvious. You know, if you don't have that fear of death, then you're not so easily manipulated.
Well, if you know who you really are, then you don't really have the fear of death, do you?
You can't be, no.
So there we go. That's why this work's so important.
It's really important.
And it's also, I think it also goes right through to a big one is to know, is part of the inquiry, for me anyway, has been, who am I not, actually? So to actually, when I have a feeling, to be able to separate myself, the all that is, from the feeling. So I am not this feeling. So then who am I? I'm not this thought. Then who am I? I'm not this pain that I have, or this illness, or I'm not the panicked one, or I'm not I'm not that. So then who am I?
I'm not the role. That's a big one.
I'm not the role.
I'm not the mother. I'm not the father.
I am not the role, because the role changes. So then who am I? And so the more you go deeper and deeper into that question, you eventually left with a very deep knowingness. It's not even necessarily something that you can put words to. Sometimes you can, but it's actually a feeling. It's a knowingness. It's an inner knowingness of who you're not. So that's for me. That's been part of it, is to say, who am I? I'm not that.
Yeah.
And you know, even when you're in the midst of a difficult feeling, for example, to say, I'm not this. I'm feeling it, or I'm noticing it, but it's not me. It's not who I am. And then there's a distance. It's not nearly as overwhelming.
And self-defining.
It's not self-defining.
It's not so serious anymore.
Yeah.
Not so serious. You're not so vulnerable to it anymore. Yeah. You know, I am that, you know, as my vase, for example, and my vase gets broken. There's part of me that breaks. When it's the vase, and the vase gets broken, well, I'm not broken. You know, it's my car. And when my car gets dinged, then I get dinged. And I get very emotionally caught up in that. But when it's the car, there's not that vulnerability anymore. And there's a sense of freedom. And is freedom not what we all yearn for? Is freedom not part of a successful life, the sense of freedom? And freedom from what? Freedom from misidentity. Freedom from attachment is ultimately what Buddha spoke about. He said all suffering is a result of attachment, desire. And so what we're speaking about tonight is just a self-inquiry, to step back from that which you have, that which you've accomplished, that which other people think of you, and come back into that real essence of who am I? And, you know, as Michelle said, it's quite often very difficult to label that true sense of I, because everything the mind comes up with will have a label, because the mind cannot come up with any idea unless it has a label, unless it has an appropriate label. And in truth, you are not the label. In the same way that this glass of water is not a glass of water with a label, it's actually something very different to any label. Yeah. And so you are not something that can be labeled. You're beyond label. The mind labels, yes. And you know what's interesting in this self-inquiry is quite often it's the labeled part of ourselves that's trying to find who we really are. It's actually the egoic mind, the personality mind,
Yeah.
is asking the question, who am I? Well, if the mind is asking that question, it can only know mind.
That's right.
So the mind is trying to find that which it cannot understand, and it will never understand.
Never.
So when I say, who am I, if it's the John that's asking that question,
Gonna get a
it
label.
is never going to find the truth. It cannot, because it can only come up with labels.
Yeah.
And then that opening meditation, when we stepped back a bit from that the sense of I am a label, there was that opening in our awareness. And in that opening in awareness, there was maybe a direct perception, an inkling of who we really are. And how do we know when we touch that space of reality? There's a sense of expansiveness, where when we identify with what we have and what we do and what other people think of us, there's almost an imprisonment. There's definitely a defined border between me and what I'm not. But when we go into that space of direct connection to the awareness of who I am, there's that non-locality. I'm not localized anywhere in time and space. I am expanded in my awareness. And that sense of self really is the alignment to what's called life. You see, life is not something that can be defined in borders. Yes, it occupies this body, it occupies that body, but it's the same life. Life is one. It's the one life, occupying maybe or animating a leaf in a plant. It may animate a insect, may animate an animal, but the life underneath that is one. There is one life, and that life is dancing through this particular personality, through this particular molecular form, but life is singular. And when we go into awareness, we start to connect directly with the awareness of life itself. We start to realize, I am life. And when we start to realize I am life, the fear of losing your life dissipates, because you can only lose that which you have. You can lose the vase, you can lose the car, you can lose your body, but when you know yourself, not know it intellectually, but know it experientially, I am life, you can't lose that.
How can you?
Because you are
It's
it.
who you are.
It's who you are. And then fear has no more hold on you.
And the thing is that as soon as we give a label, whether it's a role or whether it's a feeling, whether it's a thought or whether it's an achievement, there's actually an underlying fear there. You know, I am a business person. There's an underlying thing that creeps in there, knowing that might not always be the case. What if that changes? You know, I know a lot of people who will explain themselves as I am an artist or I am a singer, and then suddenly they can't sing anymore. And Julie Andrews lost her ability to sing, and suddenly it was, wow, who am I?
What part of me is dying?
If I can't sing, and I've always said I am a singer, then who am I? You know, or I'm a mother, and then a child leaves, or leaves in a permanent way. Who are you? So it's always tinged, isn't it, with a fear of loss, because there's a knowingness inside us that it's illusionary and transitional, and that it is going to come to an end at some point, because everything in form is going to come to an end. I mean, I had a lot of people saying when I lost all my stuff in the fire, how do you get through that? Because they can't comprehend how you can get through losing your stuff. So it would be very difficult to get through it if I defined myself by that stuff. Like I am my stuff. Well, I'm not. That is the odd, that's gone. But it's not, it doesn't define me. It doesn't define who I am. But if it did, it would be quite excruciating, I think.
Quite devastating.
To lose everything that you own. Because it would be part of who you are, but it's not part of who I am. It's stuff that I owned and now I don't. It's transitory, but it's like everything, and it's a huge lesson in that. To see, well, this too has passed, and this will pass. And this, we often say that, this satsang we're doing will pass. In half an hour's time, we won't be doing the satsang anymore. And everything's going to pass. The phone that we're doing on is going to pass. Everything is going to. The partnerships we have, the friends we have. And it can be a depressing thought if you think of it like that. But if you think of it, if you view it from the point of, I am without sort of saying who you are, but the awareness, and I'm life, and it's all passing through, then there isn't the fear.
See, that's the big one. It is the, when John thinks about losing something, they might be that depression, as you say. Oh, I'm going to lose that. I'm going to lose my looks, my age. Well, I'm going to lose everything that I have. Then John becomes depressed. And if I identify myself as John, there's going to be suffering there. There's going to be suffering, and there's going to be the fear of that loss. But as you start to awaken, you start to realize that I am not that. I'm not my name. I'm not my age. I'm not my gender. I'm not my race. I'm not my accomplishments. I'm not my possessions. Then you start to have a liberation from fear, liberation from attachment. And you start to live your life with a greater sense of freedom. You start to enjoy the dance of life instead of fearing the end of that dance. You start to enjoy the step you're taking now more deeply than ever before. So there's a greater sense of aliveness within you as you start to realize, as Michelle said, what you're not, and start to embrace more of what you are. And you are presence, you are awareness, you are consciousness, and you are life. And that realization gives you a greater sense of empathy and compassion. Because what is empathy and compassion when you have a sense of inclusiveness in your awareness, which is desperately lacking, I think, in the rich and powerful that seem to govern the world at the moment. They have a sense of they're above the situation. There's a sense of separation. But true knowing who you are is a sense of inclusiveness, not separation. Because as you start to know who you are, so you start to know who everyone else is. And there was a teacher 2,000 years ago that implored us to love thy neighbor as thyself. Don't love your neighbor the same way that you love yourself, but love your neighbor as yourself, because your neighbor is yourself. There is that leaf of the tree is you. That river is you. That mountain is you. And so there's no separation. That sense of separation dissipates. And then there's a greater enthusiasm for life. There's a greater joy in the living process. And there's a greater appreciation for the myriad forms of life and for the myriad moments. Even though they're transitory, even though they're changing, there's a greater appreciation for the uniqueness of each and every moment of your life. And that's a successful life. A successful life is a life of inclusion. It's a life of friendship. It's a life of compassion, of caring, freedom, joy. Those are all the aspects of a successful life. And that comes not from accomplishment, because all accomplishments will come and go. But that sense of freedom comes from knowing who and what you are at the deepest level. Now, I know this is a very deep subject, and the mind will come in and say, yeah, but I need another 10 years of this to try and grapple with it and get my mind around it. And I say, no, that's just the mind. That is the mind distancing you from knowing who you really are. All it takes to know who you really are is one conscious breath. Right now, one breath taken with full awareness is enough to bring you into awareness, into direct connection with awareness, direct realization of awareness. It's not somewhere that you've got to strive to get to in the future. That's what the mind will tell you. Mm-hmm. You won't get it now. You won't get it this evening. And it postpones your freedom to some other time, some other place, because the mind wants to own your attention. Like a little child running around wants to own your attention.
The mind will also tell you that, then if nothing matters, then, what's the point of looking after anything or having anything? But I think it completely shifts, because you can enjoy what you have, but without being attached to it, without thinking that it's you on any level. So you can enjoy the belonging, you can enjoy the beautiful thing that you bought or own, But don't for a minute think it's going to make you feel closer to who you really are. It's going to describe who you really are. So it's to enjoy the dance, but not to be attached to it. And that's the process. It's just slowly but surely, just whenever we get into that attached state, when we get into a fearful state, we're attached. When there's fear, there's an attachment. There's an attachment to future, or there's an attachment to this person, or what this person should say, or there's an expectation. There's an attachment. So when we let go of the attachment, we are free to enjoy it, but without it having to be what we think it should be. That's the attachment. That's we're defining ourselves by what we believe something should be, or by the future. And so at the moment, the future is quite unsure for a lot of people. And that's the fear that's driving a lot of people. And that's creating all the resistance and the panic and the upheaval. So the liberation is to know that this too is going to pass. And we don't know the future, and that's okay. As opposed to, I am this limited little person, and there's this great big scary future out there that's going to take me out. That's where a lot of people are. I'm terrified of what's ahead. Because we're attached to our vision of what we believe life should be like.
And the biggest attachment we have is to this misperception of self. So we are scared of losing self.
That's right.
For example, I mean, as a parent, with four children, one of the underlying fears of parents is losing a child. Why? Because it's my child. And if I lose my child, there's a sense of me that goes with that. But what about all the other children in the world? Why have you made certain children, in my case 4 children, more special than all the other children in the world? Well, because they're mine. In other words, I have a sense of self attached to that particular body, to that particular personality type. I have myself invested in them. And if it goes, then part of me goes. So ultimately what you were saying there is that the fear that we have is a loss of self. Yes. A loss of self. If I am these looks and these looks go, well then part of myself goes. If I lose an arm, then it's part of me that's gone, my arm. If I lose my car, then part of me has gone. But as you start to know who you really are, and this only comes from self-inquiry, it cannot come from a book. As you start to know who you are, you realize that you are the timeless essence of awareness, timeless essence of presence. And when you start to appreciate that, then you let go of this fear of loss of self. So, for example, you have a beautiful vase, and you can now admire that vase. You can now appreciate that vase with greater depth. You will actually see it with real eyes. You'll really see the form beautiful. You won't see it as my vase anymore. And therefore you won't have the underlying fear of loss. If I dropped it in this moment and smashed it in this moment, you can enjoy the form for as long as the form lasts, not needing it to be eternal, because it isn't. No form is eternal. And that gives you a greater sense of freedom, as I said earlier. And then you can enjoy the form more deeply without that underlying little monster sitting in the background called fear. Always, what if it goes? What if it goes? What if it goes? Yeah. And I'm going to do everything I can to see that it's not going to go. Well, in truth, everything is going to go, because that's the nature of form. Everything arises and everything dissipates. That is the absolute truth. But don't ask your mind to accept that, because your mind finds that truth unacceptable. And if you only know yourself in terms of your mind, then you find that unacceptable. But as you start to realize who you are, you start to become more accepting of this truth, of the infinite mortality in all things. In other words, all things come and all things go. And that's just the way it is. And what is real never dies. So, for example, the awareness never dies. And something that goes with awareness is love, the word love. Love never dies. Not at all, it can't, because it is the all that is. That's quite a deep teaching, and it takes maybe some time of letting go of all the barriers we built up to love to have that realization, all the misperceptions we have about love for them to go. But as we start to release those misperceptions about life and about love, there is a greater appreciation of what life really is and what love really is.
Yeah, and I think the misperceptions about love comes with, it's an emotion. You know, I love this and I love this. And emotions come and emotions go. But the love that we're talking about is not that.
Not emotion.
It's not emotion.
No.
It's a vibration. It's an isness. It's life. It's not something that comes and goes. It has no negative. It has no opposite.
Yeah.
It just is. And it's the underlying essence of who we are. And we were talking about it today. When we're able to connect with that essence, we're connecting with who we really are. It's not an emotion. I love ice cream, and I love my cat, and I love you, and
generally attachment.
You know, and I don't love you, and actually I don't like this ice cream anymore. My cat's just scratched me, so I don't love the cat anymore. It comes and goes. That love. So we're very limited in our language, especially when it comes to love. So if we can actually see love in a much bigger context, it's the essence of life, and we operate from that changes everything, because it's always going to be there. And I think one of my biggest teachers was my mom. You know, she died when she was 92, and she used to often say, especially towards the end of her life, she said, you know, I might look old, she said, but I'm exactly the same as I always was, because she was connecting with the essence of who she had always been. She said, I haven't changed at all.
Yeah, I
just look very old.
The body's aged.
My body's changed. My face has changed. I haven't got much strength anymore. But and what she was actually saying without knowing what she was saying, is I haven't changed.
The I-ness.
The I that was then is still here.
Yeah.
The I that was there when I was 2 and 10 and 21 and 36 is still here. She's gone nowhere. That beingness has gone nowhere. She was saying that without knowing that.
Yeah. And there's the greatest truth. The human part is always in transition. Always. It's in transformation, the human part. The being part is the timeless essence. And so that realization of the real I is the recognition and the realization of beingness. Where the human part is in time and space and tends to have locality, it has physical form, the beingness has no form, has no time and no space. And in the beingness we find security. In the beingness we discover love. It's the recognition of beingness in another. That is what love is all about. It's the recognition of beingness in a tree, for example. It's the beingness within you which is recognizing the beingness in the tree or the flower or the other person or the animal. It's that beingness that opens us up to the experience of love. For example, in a pet, it's the recognition of the beingness in the pet that is love. Not the actual form of the pet so much as the recognition of that timeless essence within the other that we love. And it's that recognition that we know of as love. So love is the recognition of oneness in the world around us. And the only way we can do that is when we know who and what we really are. We're not this body because this body is separate. It's finite. It's changing all the time. So that is not love. But it's that recognition of the timeless essence within this that enables us to experience love both in ourselves and in the world around us.
Yeah, and it's maybe a subject for another day, but it's also a lot of, the New Age self-help movement, whatever, is very much I love me, I love myself. It's self-love, which is great, but which self are you loving? Because if it's the conditional self that you're loving, then you're going to still suffer. Because I love me today because I look pretty or I'm in a good mood, but I don't love me tomorrow because I just had a fight with someone, or I don't feel particularly good about myself, or I don't look very good. So that's conditional love. So when we do the self-love practice, it's much deeper than the human self, the Michelle, the John. Yes, we say, Michelle, I love you. John, I love you. But you're looking at it from a much deeper place. It's like when you're looking at somebody in the eyes without speaking, and there's that spark of recognition.
Recognition.
In that person's eyes. It's that. That's what you're loving. You're loving the unchangeable part of you. Yeah. You're loving the unchangeable part of the other person. Not the character and the ugliness and the flaws and the beauty. You're not loving that. You're loving the inner beingness of that person that you're looking at, or that pet. Yeah.
And in closing tonight, the ultimate realization is that which is true within you is that which is true within everyone else, and that which is true is the divine. And so self-realization is really the realization of the divine in everything, in every form. And that opens your heart to experience that unconditional love. And that is who we are. We are at our core, that unconditional love. And for most people, they are searching to find it in the world of form. And form is all changing. Form is always in transition. We can't find it there. But the discovery of the divine is a realization process. To see that which is never changing, that which has never changed, that which is always here and will always be here. And that is the recognition of God, if you like, in the awareness that is looking through your eyes. You're not your eyes, you're not your ears. These are tools, these are instruments. But that which looks is the divine, that pure essence of awareness, of unconditioned consciousness. That is the divine, using your ears, using your eyes, using your hands, using your body. And that is the depth, or the reward, if you want to put it that way, of self-realization, is to realize your own power, your own magnificence. And when you recognize it in yourself, you recognize it in everything around you. It's all the same. It's all beautiful. It's all magnificent. And it's all sacred.
Yeah.
So hopefully you've enjoyed a little bit about what we shared tonight. And if you'd like to repay us, then please click the like and the share button. That's really great. It gets the word out there. And we have an online platform, monthly platform called Inner Space. You can go to journeysofawakening.com and have a look at that. And we have a new 13-week course starting in January, and that's called Journey to Freedom. Yeah,
we'll be putting that up quite shortly. The dates and that.
Yeah. So thanks, would you like to lead us out with a meditation?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, just make yourself comfy if you're not already. And take a nice deep breath in. All the way in. And then a beautiful releasing breath out. Let's see if you can let it all go. And now another deep breath in. Expanding your belly on the in breath and bringing that breath all the way up into the top of your lungs. And then letting it all go and dropping your shoulders and softening your body. And now just notice the breath. Notice the breath as it comes in and as it comes out. Notice the texture of the breath, the warmth or the coolness of the breath as it moves into your nostrils, as it exits out of your mouth or your nostrils. And be aware that you are the one that is noticing the breath. You're the witness of your own breath. And now notice any sensations that you have in your body. Imagine that you have a scanner moving all the way down your body from the top of your head. Just noticing any sensations. There might be a little pain or a little ache or a little tightness. Just notice whatever you feel physically in your body right now. Move down your back, see how your back's feeling. See how your chest's feeling, your torso, your arms, legs. If you feel any tightness or pain or discomfort, send the breath into that area. Just very gently, just focus the breath in on that area. And again, notice that you're the noticer of whatever that body sensation is. It's not who you are, because you're noticing it. So you are not your body, and you're not your body sensations. Notice any feelings, emotions that might come up. With gentle awareness, just notice them. Be the witness. Allow them to come and go. Allow them to flow through you like water, like waves. Now notice any thoughts that come into your awareness. Again, notice them. You're in the position of the witness, the observer, the awareness, consciousness that sees and notices but doesn't attach. From this place of awareness, take a deep breath and drop even further into this place, into this peaceful place, this unchanging place. Keep releasing any resistance or any tightness. If you find yourself drifting away, just gently bring yourself back to your breath, to the awareness. And just allow this awareness to be exactly as it is, noticing what it needs to notice, and then letting it go. Softening further into this beautiful place of peaceful awareness. This place of beingness. This is the place where the roles, the names, the achievements, they don't matter. This is the internal presence of who you are. And it's always here. No matter what's going on the outside. This place never goes anywhere. So just allow yourself to feel it fully. Breathe right into it and let it expand. Let it just be filling your body, filling your being, filling your space. And by simply connecting with this, we're sending ripples of this beautiful peace, this beautiful love out into the field. Without effort. I'll take a beautiful deep breath in and a releasing breath out. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes.
Beautiful, hey? It's so simple to be connected to reality. It's so lovely. And we have a nice affirmation card for the week ahead.
It is, I am love.
I am love. I am, which is the pure essence of who you really are. Just I am. And you add the word love after it. And that's beautiful. I am love. Have a beautiful week ahead of you, and know that you are love. I am love. And love is about appreciation. It's accepting. It's allowing. And that's who you are. And we look forward to catching up with you next Sunday. Lots of love.
Thanks, everybody. Love you lots. Have a beautiful week.